Hello, everybody. We are live on the Habit Finder. This is Paul Blanchard for your weekly power session. Excited to be with you today. I am feeling good. I am feeling great. I know this is an insane time for so many of you right now. Some of it just kind of presupposed, some of it your actual reality. We've got parents trying to figure out how to get their kids back in school, kind of, while trying to figure out how to get back into their full-time jobs, kind of. We've got a lot of fragmented things going on right now in the world. So I appreciate the opportunity to come here every week and pour into you and where you're at, and hopefully be able to share a couple of nuggets that are going to give you a win, that are going to give you an opportunity to feel like you are progressing, feel like you are moving forward. And then if you'll stick with it long enough to actually change the habits that got us stuck where we are at any point in life in the first place, that then you won't just feel better, you'll be able to become better. You'll be able to sustain that. That's what we're doing here. I've noticed as a professional coach, and I've been out there for quite some time now, that there are a lot of things that people listen to that motivate them, that get them excited. And I love motivation and excitement as much as anyone, but I know those are two of the most short-lived fuels and ways to make an impact on someone that there is. It's a flash in the pan. It's a challenging thing to be able to sustain. So those of you who have been coming to these power sessions for a while now know that I like to zero in on disruption. I like to zero in on looking at something different than you used to. And that's not because you're going to get the answer from this session. It's because I'm going to do my best to disrupt a barrier, disrupt a story, a narrative, a thought process that was preventing you from finding the answer, that was preventing you from taking the action that would help your life head the direction you want it to go more consistently, to be able to shift and alter and calibrate the trajectory of your business and your relationships. Not because I need you to think what I'm thinking, because I want to help you stop thinking what you're thinking in the areas that are holding you back. Because when it all boils down to it, it is the way that these 6 inches between your ears function that will determine everything. The decisions you make, the emotions you experience and how you interpret them, the actions that you take, the results you create, all come down to the way your brain operates. Now, we're not just breaking down how it operates consciously, but Habit Finder's specialty is being able to dive in and create connections with math and science to show you the way it's operating unconsciously so that you can challenge it. Then we get into some Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade kind of territory. Those of you that have seen this movie, he gets to the leap of faith and kicks some rocks over the edge, and it looks like they just fall forever. He's got to close his eyes and put his feet out there and just step and take action. Oh, what a perfect analogy for where most of us are living. Sitting there looking like the chasm between us and the life we dream of, or the next version of the life we dream of, for those who have already achieved some version of it, feels like it's so far away and yet so close, but a massive chasm between us and where we want to go. We want to challenge and disrupt those thought patterns that are allowing us to see the very simple bridge that just continues to require one foot in front of the other to get where we want to go. And with that preamble, welcome to the power session. Let's go ahead and get started, everybody. Hello, everyone, again, and welcome to this week's Power Session. I am super excited to have you here. I am your host, Paul Blanchard, president of Habit Finder and the Augmandino Leadership Institute. We are excited to have you here. We're excited to be working with you to try and disrupt the way that you think, to be able to shed some light on the conscious and the unconscious patterns that are not aligning to where you're trying to go, to be able to challenge the interpretation of the resistance we feel when it is time to grow when trying to get where we are trying to go. And today we are talking about redefining success. We're talking about recalibrating your expectations, recalibrating the narratives and the goals and the benchmarks that we set for ourselves. See, this whole company, Habit Finder, was started by the inspiration of one Og Mandino, who wrote The Greatest Salesman in the World, one of the most inspired pieces of literature in this industry ever written a little over 50 years ago. And if Og were still around today, as he said many times, he would tell you he didn't write it. He took dictation, that he wrote on his Selectric typewriter, wrote them all in one night. And when he wrote the 10 scrolls, that is the meat of The Greatest Salesman in the World. Why is it called The Greatest Salesman in the World if it's not necessarily about sales per se? Well, because that's the story. You've got a camel boy who wants to become the greatest salesman in the world 2,000 years ago. And so he goes and tracks down the greatest salesman in the world, Pathros, and then through a number of interesting interactions ends up being given the 10 scrolls, the wisdom of the ages. And the first scroll is very important to kick off our conversation today in redefining and recalibrating your success so that you can continue to succeed. And that is the very first words from scroll number 1. And that is, today I begin a new life. Today I begin a new life. This reminds me of something I heard once, I think in the Gottman Institute's material for marriage, which is a phenomenal resource for rehabilitating, healing, and strengthening relationships, where it talked about if you feel like your marriage is over, I'm paraphrasing, then just let it be over and start a new one. Not necessarily with a new person. That's not what they were insinuating, but to be able to build from the ground up with new definitions, new boundaries, new expectations. We want to redefine what we're bringing to and what we're getting out of the relationship. That's what we're going to talk about today, a little bit more ambiguously in terms of your relationship with success, your relationship with a win. Because one of the greatest things I've watched in terms of how to be able to win more often, and when you win more often, you have more fun. And when you have more fun, you like to do the things that get you the wins more often and put a little bit more into it, okay? And then you win even more, and you find fulfillment in doing so. You're able to discover things about yourself along the way. So winning is huge. We definitely want to learn to win. But what is difficult is the benchmark, the expectation that we've talked about in here many times before. Expectation being defined when you break down the etymology of the word as a concrete condition for happiness. Okay? You think about the things you expect of yourself, the things you expect of your spouse or of your kids, the things you expect of your team or your employees, and you start to consider those in terms of concrete conditions for happiness, meaning if those conditions are not met, happiness is not allowed to be experienced. These are unconscious. Expectations have massive unconscious anchors. So it is very important that if we cannot avoid expectations, they're a very natural process for your brain that spends a lot of time in the future, a lot of time in the past to figure out how to cope with the current, present, now. Again, I'm going to say that one more time because this is where most of us are living. The brain is spending tons of time in the future, tons of times in the past, and trying to calibrate all that, triangulate all that to cope with the present now. When Og gave us the most magnificent words that there ever was for being able to succeed, to be able to win, and that is today, not tomorrow, not yesterday, today, I begin a new life. What he's essentially saying, poetically saying, was wipe the slate clean. Okay? If you get nothing else from today other than permission to forgive the emotional debt that you continue to carry into every day that is based on what you didn't get done in days past, what you wish you had done differently in days past, and what you hope you'll do differently in the future, that emotional debt is killing you. Just like consumer debt can kill someone, okay? In terms of its energy, it can kill them financially because there's nothing inspiring about getting out of debt. So if you want to be inspired, the first thing you're going to want to do is forgive the emotional debt you brought in today. That is step one of redefining your success, of redefining a win. If you can wake up each morning and consciously memorialize the forgiveness of the emotional debt your brain, your unconscious mind, and even your nervous system would prefer to bring into today, forgive that debt, start with a clean slate. That will be the greatest thing that you get from today. If that's all you hear, jump out and contend with that. Come back and watch this replay and recording for the next piece once you feel like you've gotten an intentional grip on today, I begin a new life. Next, okay? Those of you who have run off with that principle and coming back and watching the recording, welcome back. The next piece is to redefine two very, very important things. Very, very important things to your success and the happiness that is supposed to come with your success, the fulfillment that should come with your success. Not once you've accomplished it and then cashing it in like a lottery ticket. No, it is baked in. Happiness, fulfillment, peace is baked into your success when you do it the way we teach. When you are able to challenge and disrupt the conscious and unconscious mind rather than compensate for the conscious and unconscious mind. Most of us that have created massive success but haven't experienced massive fulfillment just compensated. We coped well, but then we got to a boiling point. We got to a hinge point where we could no longer get any further because just working harder, doing more, sacrificing more just wasn't going to be how we got to the next level. And it wasn't worth it either, because what we hoped it would feel like when we got there certainly wasn't what we were experiencing. So once we have once we have introduced the secret to learning that Og showed us in scroll number 1, today I begin a new life. Today I am consciously forgiving myself the emotional debt that my brain, conscious and unconscious, and my nervous system wanted to bring into today. And today gets to be its own day. Now I can redefine two very important things that will make a massive difference in the fulfillment, the peace, the consistency, and the stamina in which I will want to have in the trajectory of my success. And those two things are a win and when. W-I-N, win, and when, W-H-E-N. These are two things that if left alone, if left to your unconscious expectations, those concrete conditions for happiness, if left to historical performance or future catastrophes, when left to those, will sabotage you more often than not. We start to create wins that are out of reach, and we start to create wins that feel like if we don't get it by then we are a failure, that we're a loser, that we're not good enough. This is a reason why many of us do not actually write down our goals. Definitely not writing down when they're going to be accomplished. That might be because the intimidation factor of this noose around our neck, if we don't happen to get it at that time, is so frightening that we just can't do it, or because we've set the date so many times, it is totally seemingly worthless. What you'll want to start to do when you've started to introduce a clean slate for today is challenge your current paradigm of a win and challenge your current paradigm of when. This is for personal leadership and for professional leadership. You will want to challenge your own definition of a win, because if you've put your win just a little bit out of reach and you don't get it, you will have a impossibly difficult time recognizing and celebrating the wins that you did get. Okay? Let us not forget, you woke up this morning. You got out of bed. I'm making an assumption for most of you. Okay? But even if you mentally got out of bed and you're still laying in bed, that you signed on to this live. You're watching this. Even if you're watching the replay, that's a win. That's huge. That is exponentially more than most people are ever willing to do to be able to change their destiny, to change their fate, to change the trajectory of their success. When's the last time you stopped and really, authentically, genuinely celebrated the wins that you've become numb to? I love the movie Rise of the Guardians. Okay, this is about Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny. Jack Frost is the main character because he's not in their club of official whatever characters. Anyway, Jack Frost is with Santa Claus in his workshop, and asking him like what his, and Santa Claus is schooling him on what his superpower is, what his core is, he talks about. And he says his core is wonder. And he shows this little Russian doll as it continues to open up. The smallest one still has big eyes, even though it's getting smaller and smaller. And the smaller it became, the bigger his eyes seemed to look in proportion. And that was the wonder, looking at everything with a fresh perspective. Looking at everything is super exciting. Like when we were 5 and someone gave us $1 and we felt like we won the lottery. That's wonder. Okay. When our oldest sibling gave us some attention when normally they'd be off playing with friends, and the wonder of that, the appreciation of that. When a parent would turn off the TV and give us some personal time. I mean, the simplest little things. Let's redefine a win in our life. Since when did we become required to make a win so formal, so executionable, duplicatable, and blah, 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 all this formalized crap that just doesn't make it fun anymore? It's not fun. Oh, because if you celebrate the little things, you're not going to be hungry for the big things. Well, the people I've seen drive success based on getting hungry usually end up emotionally starved. And then they've got to invest significantly more on the back end because now they don't have $80,000 a year problems. They have $2 million a year problems or $300,000 a year problems. And that sounds nice conceptually, but it's a very dark place to live. Money is a magnifier, they say. Would you want the challenges you're feeling right now magnified a few 100,000 times? I don't think so. We can convince ourselves over and over again that the cash would make up the difference. It doesn't, I promise. Figure this stuff out now. Challenge this stuff out now by not bringing emotional debt in today, and then redefine the win. The win, okay? You know I love words. And the etymology of win is simple. It is to gain or succeed by. So to gain or succeed. Guess what it says nothing about? What you're gaining or what you're succeeding at or how much of it you're gaining or how much of it you're succeeding. Any gain, any matter of success is a win. And then we get this phenomenal formula, okay? So we gain or succeed by struggle, conquering, and obtaining. Those are the 3 keys to a win. Meaning, the core root of the word, you did not win if you didn't struggle, you didn't conquer, and you didn't obtain. Think of the things that you have gained in your life that you didn't struggle to gain, that you didn't conquer anything to gain, and that you didn't obtain anything to gain. What did it feel like? How fulfilling was it? And how long did that fulfillment last? And how competent were you? How able were you in being able to sustain that win? So the first step in redefining a win is to bring wonder back. Just like in Rise of the Guardians, that as the Matryoshka dolls or the Russian dolls got smaller and smaller, the eyes got bigger and bigger, but the eyes stayed the same size. But those eyes on the adult Russian doll didn't look that big, but as it became simpler and smaller, sometimes the key to our success is making our life feel simpler and even a little bit smaller. Not in terms of not thinking big, not dreaming big, but simple and small wins to bring the wonder back into our life. That's redefining a win. Once we start doing that, then we can redefine when this worthless date that we've thrown out there superfluously so many times, or this deadline that has dead in it for a reason, because we'll be dead if we don't actually accomplish it, even though none of us have actually died from not hitting a goal we wrote down in our dream journal or whatever. So let's redefine a win for ourselves so we can bring wonder and fun back into our lives. And let's redefine when so that we can start making educated guesses, because that's what when is. We want it to be intentional. We want it to be purposeful, but we don't want it to be an ultimatum. It's not a ransom. It should be inspiring. Wow, I'd really like to hit that benchmark by this time? Do I really want to? Am I really willing to dive in? Am I really willing to make the sacrifices? Am I really clear about which sacrifices I'm not willing to make? All this stuff that we take our clients through at a very deep level to figure this out. I'm giving you an introduction to that journey today. To start with a clean slate today I begin a new life, to redefine a win, to make it smaller and simpler, to bring the wonder and the fun back into your life. And then to redefine when, so we quit killing ourselves with these deadlines for something that we're more interested in it because it sounds like a good idea, rather than because we really understand what that's going to take to hit it by when. This is key, hugely essential if any of you lead teams. If any of you have people following you in any degree, professionally or personally, you will want to be very agile and very capable in calibrating what a win for them is and what when should be for them. I feel like I'm failing them, a client of mine said. Well, based on what? Well, they're not getting where they want to go. Okay, based on when? Well, because so-and-so accomplished it in this amount of time, so I figured this was reasonable, but they're not so-and-so. You're not so-and-so. I've had an opportunity to rub shoulders with some of the most successful people on this planet, and guess how they got there? They got there, not them comparing themselves to somebody else getting there. They actually experienced their journey rather than figured out how to duplicate and counterfeit somebody else's. So redefine the win, redefine the when. Now I want to circle back to the win again. To gain or succeed because of struggle, conquering, and obtaining. So, what is the primary struggle that we'll experience with a win? I wanted to see if I could answer this. What's the primary conquer that we'll experience to get a win? And what is the primary thing we will obtain to qualify for a win? Did my very best based on work we've done with hundreds of thousands of entrepreneurs and the way that they think on a mathematical and scientific scale. And these are my answers for you to chew on, for you to consider, to make sure that you are focused on the right things as you today begin a new life. Okay. And as you bring the simple, small things back into focus in your life to allow the wonder to reappear, the fun to reappear, it would be this: to struggle with your worthiness. Because that's really what it comes down to. If you sabotage yourself in any way, which means you aren't able to intentionally and clearly get to the next level, you aren't clearly able to visualize something and it's real in an appropriate amount of steps and time consistently in every area of your life, then you likely have issues and challenges with worthiness, because everybody does. Now, we know there's 6 different areas that you can struggle with worthiness in your self-construct that we can measure in the habit finder. Okay. We know that there's internal and external influences that will manipulate this so that you may go, I don't struggle with worthiness. Well, you may need to redefine what struggling with worthiness really looks like. Just like people who say, oh, it's not fear. I promise you it's fear. It always comes down to fear. And what is fear? Fear is a protection against worthiness. We'd much rather be afraid of something and keep ourselves stuck than actually have to face and challenge and move beyond what our mind believes we're worthy of. So what will you struggle with? You'll struggle with your worthiness. And those of you caught up on that being a soft and sensitive kind of word, I promise you're struggling with worthiness. You're just doing it with different language, doing it with different justifications, and doing it with different explanations. But what will you struggle with to get a win that matters in any area of your life? You'll struggle with worthiness. What will you conquer? You'll conquer procrastination. Procrastination, like fear, is not simple. Okay, it's not like the 8-year-old hiding in the backyard to avoid having to do household chores. It's not as simple as that. We procrastinate just as much now as we ever did, and we all procrastinate. It seems to be like a balloon. You squeeze here, it inflates over here. Some of us have eliminated procrastination in certain areas of our business or our professional lives or in our personal lives, but there always seems to be an expansion somewhere else in life that we've learned to compensate for, learn to justify, learn to explain away. But I believe any win that is worthwhile will require you to conquer procrastination in that particular lane that you're trying to create the win in. So you'll struggle with worthiness across the board. You'll conquer procrastination in that particular lane. And like fear, procrastination has infinite numbers of disguises and masks and everything else that it uses. As soon as you think you got procrastination figured out, there's some other part of your life that it's cloaked in that is going to be hard to root out. As soon as you figure out a fear you've got, there's going to be some other part of your life that you're going to need to look a little bit closer at. So what will you struggle with? Worthiness. What will you conquer? Procrastination. What will you obtain? Ability. You'll obtain ability. You know what the best part about obtaining ability is? When you obtain an ability and you exercise that ability to build stamina, you can make anything more enjoyable. In fact, on the flip side, anything you think is enjoyable without ability and stamina is not. I was last week in Breckenridge, Colorado with a collegiate tennis player. And if she plays tennis and is out of shape, she doesn't have stamina, then her ability suffers and she doesn't enjoy it. And she loves tennis. It's one of her passions. It's one of her favorite things to do every week. It's her happy place. But if you take away some of her ability, you take away her stamina, it's no longer a happy place. So who's to say we can't reverse engineer that with the other things that are required of us to be able to grow our business? Oh, I just don't like making calls. I just don't like social media. I'm just not that kind of person. Is there any chance that it's because you haven't created ability and you haven't built stamina? That's what you will obtain. So regardless of what is required for you to win in that business on paper, in numbers, in rank, in size of your team, whatever it is, it's going to come from redefining this. And rather than going, I'll need to do that just long enough to get to that level of success so I can take my foot off the gas. When you gain ability, you can continue to do the hard work and have it feel easier. That's the beauty of ability, is it still requires just as much of you, but it doesn't feel like it requires as much of you. That's why anyone that I used to define as they have time freedom and financial freedom, they don't. They just make better time choices and financial choices than I do. And they've been making better time choices and better financial choices for longer than I have. And so they have acquired ability in those areas so that they have mastery of their time, that it feels so much more free. And they have mastery of their income and their finances, so it feels more free. But anyone, no matter how much time or financial freedom they seem to have, can get rid of it like that from the wrong choices. So what kind of freedom is that? Freedom means a lack of resistance, a lack of consequence. Not the Viktor Frankl freedom, not the patriotic freedom. That is, everyone understands that is to be sacrificed for and fought for and earned. What I'm talking about is just the core words. Freedom means a lack of resistance, a lack of consequence. And that doesn't create freedom. That doesn't create ability, which means that whatever you've experienced is going to be short-lived because it's going to be too difficult to sustain because you don't have the ability and you don't have the stamina. That's what you're going to want to focus on. And every step of the way, every notch you level up, you're going to need to step back and redefine what emotional debt you're carrying into today, what you're trying to live up to that isn't fair to the you of right now because of the future or the past. And are you consistently redefining your wins and your whens for you and the people following you? If you start to work through that, I promise you will free up things in your life in the areas that you want to be more successful and the ways you want to feel about that success more rapidly than any strategy, any tactic that someone could teach you about your particular industry. Thank you for listening today. If there's someone you know that needs to hear this, please tag them, share this out, comment. We would love nothing more than to be able to make an impact on as many people as possible with something that doesn't require an investment. Now, if any of you aren't seeing the traction you want, An investment can go a long way, and we're happy to talk about what options we have, ways we can really serve you. See, as much as I love doing these power sessions are free, which means you're going to get a free level of results. Now, if you want to get an investment level of results, let us know. We'd love to have that conversation with you. We've been battle testing and proving our results for over 20 years with over 200,000 clients, over 99% of them acquired by referral. You don't get that if what you're doing isn't working. So thanks for being here. Thanks for giving us the opportunity to pour in. Everybody have a phenomenal Tuesday. Create a great week. And hopefully we get an opportunity to see you at a level of investment, or if it's what makes the most sense for you right now, at the very least, we hope to see you back next Tuesday. Take care, everybody. Bye.